Good morning. The whole idea behind books and reading and that whole process of getting into that fantasy world and sometimes the informative world has changed a lot in the last few decades with audiobooks and books that you can pull up on devices. And in some cases, we just don't even think about reading anymore. But it's always great to get back into talking about that and share some ideas about books and authors who we might find interesting and maybe either renew our interest or just spark our interest in some new reading. So we're going to have a conversation about that today with one of our favorite bookworms and our resident bibliophile, Ann Davis East. It'll happen in just a couple of minutes. So put on the brakes, grab a cup of coffee, and join the conversation because it's time once again for Coffee Breaks with Steve. Good morning and welcome once again to Coffee Breaks with Steve on this Saturday, June 8th, 2024. If you're tuning in live, that's the date, and it's about 9:30 a.m., just a little after 9:32 a.m. Pacific time on that date. If you are in another time zone, let us know where you're coming in from and joining us from, and do what Carla Venturi just did. Good morning, Carla. And say hi. Let us know that you're here by saying hello in the chat. And as we get into our topic today, join the conversation. Share some of your own ideas. Share some of your thoughts and questions and comments, and maybe a little bit about what's on your bookshelf. We'll get to that in just a few minutes. How's everybody doing? It's been an interesting and busy week since we were last here. By the way, if you're tuning in later on and watching this recorded version of this, you're also welcome to participate in the chat. Excuse me, need some of this. Everybody drink. Shalane is still not here. She is still in New York. I think she returns to the West Coast today, but she is still adventuring on the East Coast right now, so she can't be here to do that. And yeah, if you were tuning in later, make sure that you join us in the chat either here or on YouTube. Hey, that reminds me, we're trying an experiment this week, and we may stretch that out in the next couple of weeks. We want to stay active on both Facebook and YouTube. We have been finding, and we've been getting feedback from some of our viewers that during the live broadcast, some of the features on YouTube are not helping you interact as effectively as we would like them to. And we've been going in and double checking to make sure that the chat's supposed to be working on YouTube. Everything from our end says it works, and yet we're getting feedback that people are not able to engage in the chat and join the conversation from there. And while we want to expand on YouTube, we're seeing that the possibility exists that what we may end up doing is focusing more of our live attention, continuing to focus that on Facebook, where the majority of our viewers do tune in live, and utilizing YouTube more to post up edited versions within a few hours, perhaps, of when we broadcast live, and let people join in there later on. And that will also continue to help us. Yeah, there are a lot of people on vacation. Sorry, Rick isn't here today, but hopefully it's for him being able to do something positive. But anyway, so during this week, while we're still broadcasting live on YouTube today, we didn't promote YouTube over the course of the week. We during our sharing of the upcoming episode, we focused on directing people toward here, Facebook, the Facebook channel, where my broadcast is typically focused from my end, and where I'm most easily able. I think I'm able to see chats if they do come through on YouTube. Anyway, all of that just to say, if you do not see us, and we'll put out more information about this, but if you do not see us showing up as an option for live on YouTube within the next couple of weeks, don't be alarmed. We hope that that works out for everybody. If you're not currently on Facebook and it's not going to be convenient for you to tune in live on Facebook, feel free to contact us. We'll be glad to work with you to see if we can help you find some solutions so that you can join the conversation live if that is your preference. And we'll always continue to have the episodes both on Facebook and YouTube following the show. Anyway, all of that to say, glad you're here. Hope you are enjoying your week. We are getting into summer, as our director mentioned just a minute ago. Lots of people on vacation. And so we recognize that we may have fewer people tuning in live at any given point. You know what? That never concerns me. I love having the core group here, whoever's able to be here live. We're around the coffee table, our virtual coffee table. We're having our conversation, and that always works out just fine. I want to share a few things that are coming up. Not so much what's coming up, sorry. We're going to share some things that we found to be sweet and savory this week and share those with you. You know, a lot of you know that I am a space nerd and have been my entire life. We've talked about it before, and I occasionally share things here that I think are cool or exciting or just fun that are going on outside the Earth's atmosphere or within that realm, as the case may be. So first thing I wanted to mention was this last week, Boeing's Starliner spacecraft manned their first. They've been delaying this, but they were finally able on Wednesday to launch a manned spaceship with 2 astronauts on board and send it up into orbit. And that was a big accomplishment for them. They've been working on this. They first unveiled the Starliner back in 2010. And along with several other companies, commercial companies, have been working with NASA to create viable options. You know, NASA for many years was the only game in town, other than sometimes the military itself, launching any kind of spaceships into orbit from the United States. Obviously, there are other countries that do it. Russia and some other countries have been able to successfully put astronauts or their version of astronauts into space. But for the United States, it's only been in recent years that they have moved toward utilizing commercial contractors to do that for any number of reasons. And they all work closely with NASA. And so Boeing's faced some issues of its own just with its commercial airliner and some of the issues with some of the planes in recent years. So they've been looking for some successes, I know. And while this doesn't necessarily change any of the issues that they've had with their jets, this was a big accomplishment. And they launched 2 astronauts, veteran astronauts, NASA astronauts. Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore went into space this last week. And after a few little glitches in orbit, they were actually able to successfully dock with the International Space Station. There have already been a couple of missions up there that have been at the space station. So as you can see from this picture taken just a day or two ago, there are now 9 residents, 9 people currently on board the International Space Station, and including Sunita and Butch. So a big accomplishment for them, and congratulations to Boeing. And, you know, again, exciting news as we see more of this happening. For some people, you kind of shrug your shoulders. For me as a space nerd, it's a cool thing. I had another story I wanted to share with you, and let me get my screens working the way I want them so I can share this. Because when I'm working with these 2 months, and you can see I'm still in my dining room with Remy and Jameson, our grandsons here in town. They're utilizing the room where my desk and studio are typically set up. I don't want to go through the trouble of setting up, breaking down around their bedroom. And sometimes it's kind of a mess because they're teenagers. So we're here. But anyway, I wanted to share another thing that I thought was kind of cool, the story that I saw this week. And it was about this cat by the name of Artie. This is in Wales. And this young man, Theo Will McKenna, when he was 17 years old, his cat, the family cat, who was 4 years old at the time, Artie, disappeared. And with just a ton of searching, they could not find Artie. And after a while, obviously, realized that Artie was gone forever. Well, that was 12 years ago. And just a couple of weeks ago, they got a phone call. And it turned out that these people in a nearby neighborhood had this cat that was hanging around their backyard. And after several days of this cat disappearing to take up residence in their backyard, they contacted a local pet agency that was able to scan it for a chip, found a chip that related to an old telephone number. And after going on Facebook to try to get more information, they traced it back to the McKenna family and discovered that this was their cat that had disappeared 12 years ago, Artie, who had disappeared 12 years ago and had now all of a sudden turned up after spending all these years doing who knows what. Artie's obviously not talking, but Artie did have a few health problems that they were able to take care of right away. Nothing that was too major, but some things just to make sure that he is healthy. And now they're just kind of looking at ongoing care for their now what was, four-year-old cat when he disappeared, now a 16-year-old cat, which is getting up there in the golden years for cats. And the fact that Artie survived all this time and is now redomesticating was pretty amazing. I thought that was kind of cool and wanted to share that because in addition to being a space nerd, I'm also someone who loves animals. We've had a lot of cats over the years. We do not anymore just because we're at a stage of life where all our traveling stuff wouldn't be fair to a pet if we were leaving them in charge of the house while we were gone, etc. Anyway, wanted to share that one. And we have one birthday that I wanted to share this week with you. This Tina Quinn. Tina is actually my cousin, my first cousin. She lives in California. And I just wanted to wish Tina a happy birthday on the 11th of June and hope that she is doing well. She and her family are doing well. And if you have a special day this week that you would like to let us know about, maybe a birthday, an anniversary, you have some special celebration coming up. Maybe there has just been a graduation in your family that you want to share. You know, one that's coming up, a wedding, bar mitzvah, a baby birth, anything like that we can celebrate with you and acknowledge. We would love to hear about it. And if you got one coming up, maybe later in the month of June or in the month of July or even in the month of August, because we are forward-thinking people, you are free and welcome and encouraged to send us an email at cbwsteve@comcast.net to let us know about that so that we can include it, put it on our calendar, include it in our celebrations and acknowledgments, and make sure that we are there with you because, again, this is everyone's virtual coffee table. All right, I'm just going to check some comments really quickly here. And I see, just to kind of see who has joined the conversation in the last couple of minutes while I've been rambling on. Kim Baker is here, I see. So good meowing afternoon and happy Catterday to you, Kim. And once again, if you have joined the conversation in the last few minutes, make sure that you say hello in the chat. Let us know that you are here. Get into the conversation with us as we get into our topic, which we are about to do. And I want to share just a little bit, although this is someone who's been with us before. It's been a while, and I want to make sure that we are properly introducing her. And it's our friend Ann Davis East. And Ann has been with us. I think she runs second in the total number of appearances on Coffee Breaks with Steve. Has been on here off and on for the last 3 years, 4 years. I don't even recall now. I'd have to go back and look at my list. But I would let you a little bit of, wow, hang on. Let you know a little bit about Ann professionally, because when she's on here, we focus quite a bit on books and her avocations. But I want to let you know about her vocationally, because that's how I first knew Ann. Ann has over 30 years in nonprofit management and is the CEO of Davis East Consulting, specializing in nonprofit compliance, board development, ethics training, and strategic planning. She is active on several boards focusing on community development and assisting underserved youth. Her affiliations include notable organizations like the National Association of Businesswomen and the Association of Fundraising Professionals. She earned a Bachelor of Science from William Woods University and a Master's in Science in Elementary Education from Lesley University. And why do I share that when we're not going to be talking about nonprofit? So I want you to know about this woman and how versatile and intelligent she is. And we love it when Ann gets with us and talks about books. So here's the conversation. Now, in the past, Ann has often joined us live. We were able to pre-record our conversation. That doesn't mean that you cannot ask questions and make your comments and share your ideas in the chat, which we'll remind you to do. But here's our conversation with Ann Davis East. And welcome back to Coffee Breaks with Steve. It's been a little while since we've seen you and heard what's on your bookshelf, so it's good to see you again.
Good to see you. I think we're all back in the swing of things.
I hope so. I hope so. Well, listen, you have consistently brought us some great ideas about authors and books, and just curious to hear what you have for us today that you would like to share from your bookshelf and maybe help us add it to our own. Where do we want to start?
We're going to start with Alison Pataki's book. And I'm going to hold it up at the Magnificent Lives of Marjorie Post.
Okay.
Which is fiction. As we all know, Marjorie Post family started Post Cereal, went on to purchase Bird's Eye, so that's how we got our frozen vegetables. But anyway, it's a fiction book about her life, her marriages, just going through. Easy read. I read it in 2 days, but
wow.
you know me, I'm
but still
quick reader. Yeah. But it would be a great book to take to the beach. Or the pool. It's not heavy. It's fun. And I actually learned a lot about Post cereal.
Okay.
So that's one. That was,
who would you say? I mean, is there a specific sort of target readership or target audience for that book? Do you think that's just for anybody who enjoys good fiction, or would you say it may tend to appeal to one group more than another?
I think it would appeal to probably women more.
Okay.
It's got a little romance in it.
Okay.
I would say anywhere from the 20s up would be good.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. Next one is by Kristen Hanna, and it's called The Women. This, if I could have, I would have read it straight through. This is again a fiction. It's about a girl from Coronado, California. It's during the Vietnam War. Her brother went off, was unfortunately killed. She became a nurse in Vietnam. And so the first half of the book is about when she was in Vietnam and what she saw, how she dealt with things, her relationships with men and all of that. Second half of the book is about when she came back. Now it's written for 68, 69. So we all know that during that time, there was a lot against the war.
Yes.
And so it talks about how she was non-welcomed back.
Yeah.
After she came, how her parents informed their friends that she went off to study abroad. They didn't say she went to Vietnam as a nurse. All the things, a lot of PTSD type things in the second half, but really, really good.
Okay.
As I said, if I could have had 2 days of nothing, I would have read the entire book.
It was a page turner.
It was a page turner. And I really think that it would be for our generation, the baby boom generation.
Yeah.
Because we knew what happened in 69, 68, how veterans were not welcomed back.
Right.
That whole thing. And in the PTSD for them. It really talks about she tried to go back to the VA to get help. but they consistently would say, "Are you a veteran?" She would say, "Yes." And they would say, "Well, there were no women in Vietnam." So she didn't qualify for any help.
Because the women who were there primarily were in nursing roles and weren't considered, quote, active duty military. Was that kind of the attitude?
That and majority of women that were there were as in the book is they're referred to as donut dollies, who are
Yeah.
the Red Cross
Yeah.
women that were there to entertain, pass out donuts,
Yeah.
coffee, those type of things. Um, so at the end, everything works out, but it's just
It's a journey.
it's a journey, and it's a great, great book.
Okay. What else do you have for us?
Last, I have The Diamond Eye, which is by Kate Quinn.
Okay.
This again was if I had days, I would have sat and read the whole thing. It's about a woman that fought, Russian woman that fought in World War II and became the top sniper in the Russian army. She is so half the book is about that, how she became a sniper and everything. And the other half, which is kind of intertwined, is she was part of a delegation that went to the U.S. to participate in some program that Eleanor and Franklin Roosevelt put together.
Wow. And this is not fiction. This is about a real person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kind of a
Wow.
little fiction,
Sure.
but and then the subplot is that an American sniper was brought in to get the Russian sniper to kill Franklin Roosevelt.
Whoa.
So
Okay.
there's all these little plots going on, but again, it's a page turner.
Yeah.
You can't, I think Terry would say, "Are you going to turn the light off soon?" I'm like, "Yeah, let me just finish this chapter, and then I would go into it."
So what do you? So those are books that you have had the opportunity to finish reading. Are you? What are you in right now?
So right now I am reading The Rose Code, which is also by Kate Quinn.
Okay.
And The Rose Code is about 3 women that worked at Bletchley Park during World War II, trying to break codes. All 3 of them came from different backgrounds, but the sub story is that one of them ends up in a mental hospital, hasn't figured out why she's there yet, but that somebody was stealing information over. So I'm halfway through with that book. Again, it's a page turner.
Yeah.
So I have to force myself to read so much a night.
Yeah.
But that is what I'm reading.
Okay.
I'm also reading Doris Kern Goodwin's book on leadership, which is the leadership of Abraham Lincoln, Teddy Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, and
Wow.
Lyndon Johnson during turmoils and crises. And it's very interesting to see how they all develop their own leadership styles. One of them was, they listened to everybody and took what they had to say.
Yeah.
Another one was, we're going to do it this way. I don't care if you like it or not. We're going to do it. So that's the other book that I'm reading.
I think this is an interesting question because you've been back with us a number of times and always have a different collection of books by different authors. And I think it's interesting to our viewers to understand, how do you go about picking what you're going to read, what's going to hit your list or what's going to hit your list next? Is it you like to follow particular authors? How do you introduce within your own reading pattern new authors or new types of books?
I go through a lot of different ways. The Marjorie Post book and the Diamond Eye both came from one of my cousins.
Okay.
She posted on Facebook that she had just finished reading these two books, and she said she couldn't put them down. Like she generally has good taste in books, so I said, you know what? I'll pick them up and see. And so I did. And I just sent her an text telling her good choices, keep posting what you've read. Um, I go to Goodreads
Mm-hmm.
website and see what they're reading. I will look at Oprah's reading list, Reese
Okay.
Witherspoon's reading list, Jenna Bush's reading list. So I really just kind of peruse all over. Um, and then our library, I can't remember who it comes out, but it's like a pamphlet or newspaper type thing that lists books. And so while I'm at the library, I'll just pick it up and kind of flip through it. Um, then our library system is doing book club bags, and
Oh,
so they'll be different genres. So there may be a fiction and nonfiction, historic, something in a bag
yeah.
that you can pick up and read with a book club if you want,
Huh.
or on your own. So I'll go through and see what the books are in the book club bags.
Those
Um,
are good. That's good to know. A
yeah.
couple of other questions for you, Anne, while we have you here. One is, what are your thoughts? The big trend, obviously, in the last few years toward audiobooks. And how do you feel about, do you yourself listen to any audiobooks? And how do you feel about that as an option for people who maybe aren't as inclined to pick up and read a book? Or sometimes there can be actual reasons why someone struggles to read something on paper, but the audiobook gives them the opportunity to experience it. Do you have any personal opinions about that or experience with that?
I don't do audiobooks. I like to have the book in my hand. I'm one of those. I used audiobooks with my son because he's dyslexic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so in school, when he had to read outside books or book in a literature class,
Yeah.
we would have it. At that time, there weren't a lot of audiobooks, but the deaf organizations have people come in,
That's right.
volunteers come in and read books, not just textbooks, but all sorts of books. So again, when we were in Silicon Valley, I went to them and said, "Here's his reading list for his lit class. What do you have recorded?" And if they didn't, they found a volunteer that recorded for me. Of course, we donated to the
Right.
organization and stuff. Um, if you're going to be on a long trip, um, I think it's a great thing. My daughter is getting ready to drive to Texas to visit friends, and I was going to tell her to go and look for audiobooks. I mean, her children range from 11 to 5 months,
Mm.
but to get so the two older ones could listen to books instead of on their iPads the whole trip.
Yes.
Um,
Good idea.
and those type of things. Plus, if you put it in for the whole car tier, then you have something to discuss when you stop for lunch or dinner or something else. So I
Hmm.
think they're good. I personally just like having the book in my hand.
Yeah. What do you recommend? Let's say there's somebody watching this and listening to this who says, I'd love to, I used to be an avid reader, or I've never really been into grabbing books and reading them, but maybe I'd like to get started doing that. It's just not part of my habit. Do you have any advice for people to kind of how to get going with reading or reading more if they're not currently doing that? What do you suggest?
I would go and ask the librarian, what is the most popular book that's being checked out?
Hmm.
And start with that. Or pick an author that you like. And that
Mm-hmm.
author could be an author that when you were reading,
Yeah.
or an author that you read when you were in school, elementary school. Go into the children's section and pick up that book again and read it.
Yes.
Um, One of my favorite children's books is called Mischievous Meg. And it's just about a girl that just was always getting into trouble and doing things. My fourth grade teacher read it to us, to the class. Ever since that, I've been looking for it and looking for it. Finally found it on Amazon
Hmm.
and giving it to my two older granddaughters because I've talked about it so much. And they're like, I want to read it. I want to read it. Um, so it's then if there was a book that somebody read to you, go back and get it. Um, join a book club,
Hmm.
even if it's you and a friend,
Mm-hmm.
and you meet once a week to discuss what you've read to that point, not
Yeah.
the end, but
Right.
if you've read 3 chapters, then meet and talk about those 3 chapters.
And with that, there is both an accountability because you're with someone else and you kind of hold each other accountable for doing the reading, but also that opportunity to talk about what you're reading is a great motivator and
Yeah,
incentive to keep going.
yeah. Um, eh, my mother used to every summer would go and find the books that the incoming freshman classes at Radcliffe and Harvard would be reading, and she read those during the summer.
Wow.
She also would look at, I don't know if schools do this anymore, but a lot of the schools would have reading lists that students would have to read one book from each category.
Yeah.
And she would get those lists and go down. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of bookstores because she would go in and spend a morning pulling the books, reading the back covers of the book. She always said, read the first chapter, first and third chapters, because then you'll kind of know the story and will it hold your attention. Um, but those are things. Just go spend a day in the library pulling books off the shelf.
Yeah. I like
Um,
that.
and just read.
Just
Um,
read anything that you can find that's interesting to read.
you
Good,
know, I
good
have a
practice, good
Yeah, I
habit.
have a friend who was going to a cocktail party for the first time, and she goes, I don't think I can carry on a conversation. And I said, you read at this time, I said, read Time, Newsweek, and People. And she goes, what? And I said, read Time, Newsweek,
Yeah.
and People. You can have a conversation from those 3
Beautiful.
periodicals that will give you an hour of conversation for a cocktail party.
That's gorgeous. So, Anna, in the last few minutes we have left, one of the things that I like to do with guests is give them what I call flashcard questions, just 2 or 3 things that maybe give some additional insight. And so I'll throw out a couple of things to you and just answer in the moment.
Uh,
Of it, throughout we're going to focus on adult life. You've already talked about, favorite children's book, et cetera. But in your adult life, do you have one book that stands out to you as being your favorite book? And maybe you go back and read again.
yes, it's a Michener book. And of course, you put me on the spot. I can't remember the title, but I'll tell
Okay.
you about it.
Okay.
It it's about students that are going through Europe during a summer break and all their adventures.
Hmm.
And it's a great book. I mean, all of his books are good, but it's long, but it's good. But I like it because it was a book my mom, my sister, and I were reading. And we were at the 72 Munich Olympics. We had one copy. And what my mother did is she divided the book into thirds. And so one of us would read the first third, and then that would be passed on to somebody, and that person would go on and read the second section, and then we just kept passing it because we all wanted to read it, and we only had one copy. And I still pick it up generally sometime during the summer and read it.
Wow. That's cool. That's always a good endorsement. And we will. I know I put you on the spot. We will post recording here. We'll find the book and we'll make sure that we share the title online here during the actual show.
Yeah, if I find it, I'll text it to you quickly
Perfect.
after we finish.
Are there any books right now that you have not added to your list? Or, well, let me put it this way: you haven't acquired yet, but they are on your list. And once you finish the ones that you're currently working on, you say this is this one or these are the next ones I'd like to pick up, and that can be fiction, nonfiction. What are you looking ahead toward?
I'm really right now kind of fascinated with the women that served in Vietnam. I
Okay.
mean, the book The Woman really sparked my interest because again, you never hear about them. And they were right in there with everybody else. Um, so I'm really kind of looking at some nonfiction and some more fiction on women that served or women that served in any wars,
Yeah.
uh, as a matter of fact.
Well, Ann Davis East, thank you once again for taking time to join us to share what's on your bookshelf and what you're looking forward to adding to your bookshelf. We always appreciate your insights and look forward to seeing you here again, hopefully very soon.
Certainly look forward to it. And you all have a wonderful summer if I don't do anything until the fall.
Excellent. All right, my conversation with Ann Davis East. It's always fun to have Ann on the show, as I mentioned earlier when I was introducing her and talking about that. My initial interactions with Ann a number of years ago occurred through our mutual work in the nonprofit field and our association with the same organizations. And I have always appreciated and admired Ann's expertise in a number of areas regarding nonprofit work, but also really appreciate her insights regarding books and authors. And she's obviously an avid reader. And so it's always fun. And I know some of you here are too. Thank you so much for several of you sharing some of your own experiences with book clubs. Kathy and Carla both talking about the book club that you're involved in together with a few others. And how you go about doing that. I'd love to continue to see comments and hear your own perspectives on reading. Some of you may be avid readers who pick up and are constantly reading a book. Some of you may be the type that really need to have that paper in your hands. And some of you may be, reading books on a device, going online and pulling up books on an electronic device. And I know many of us now, because we're traveling, because of our schedules, because we're sometimes multitasking, will use audiobooks. And there can be a variety of reasons for that as well, as we already talked about. So I would love to continue to see and hear your perspectives on that and know what is on your bookshelf or how people like Ann Davis East or Carla or Kathy or others who are actively involved in book clubs and in finding new things to read. I would love to hear from all of you about how you go about finding the next book, what you're currently reading, what you're looking forward to reading, and how people like Ann may influence you and help you determine what you're going to read next. All right. In the few minutes that we have left, I want to Kathy's sharing here that she belongs to 2 book clubs, couldn't get everything read without audiobooks. I think that's good to know, and that's a great perspective. You can have a combo. I like the idea of intermixing, picking up an actual book and reading it and using audiobooks. I do the same thing. I'm not as avid a reader as I used to be or as I should be. I have a few books on my bookshelf right now that I need to either pull off. They've been there waiting for me to get to them, or I need to pull them off again and go back and refer to things, because mine are also a mix of fiction and nonfiction. Enough of that for the moment. Let me share some things that are coming up in the next few weeks. And we do have, the last few weeks I've mentioned that we had some things in the works, but we didn't have things scheduled completely yet. So I wanted to share with you some of the things we do have scheduled. And I think it's a pretty cool lineup getting us through the month of June and into the month of July. So let me tell you a little bit about that. Next week, we have a lady by the name of Christina Crick who's going to be joining us on the show. I don't want to give away too much about Christina's story, but she is an Army veteran who served in a number of posts around the world working as a liaison officer. She also was deployed and served in Afghanistan and Iraq. You're going to hear her journey, her life journey, and her message about why it's so important to pursue your goals and not give up on things that are important to you, and particularly her real focus on wanting to empower women not to be shut down or set aside in a world that is so often dominated by men and designed by men. And you think about somebody who served effectively a career in the Army and how that might apply there. So we're going to be meeting with, and you're going to hear a lot more from Christina, and I can guarantee you it's going to be fascinating. June 22nd, our friend Kim Baker is going to be back to join me as co-host on that day. She and I are already working on specifics around what our topic or topics are going to be. And so you'll want to stay tuned to hear more about that, but you will definitely want to be here on June 22nd as Kim and I get into a fun conversation about whatever topic we land on. And then on June 29th, this one's going to be a lot of fun. And I've actually been looking forward to this one for a couple of years now. We just hadn't been able to make it happen. But Remy and Jameson, my grandsons, are here with us for this part of the summer. And on June 29th, which is the Saturday leading into the 4th of July holiday, they're going to join me to talk about their experience when Carol and I took them on a very special trip a couple years ago now to the East Coast to connect with their own patriot ancestors, but also to visit several places that are relevant to the founding of our nation. And they're going to share what they learned and what inspired them about learning things about their own history and the history of our country as we get into the 4th of July. I think it's going to be an entirely different perspective. And once again, you are not going to want to miss that one. And then on July 6th, we're going to be meeting an author by the name of Jazz Azari, who interestingly has a background working also in the government, working for branches of the government. And through that was inspired, interestingly, to begin writing some fantasy books set in kind of medieval fantasy times called the Lost Legacy series. She's already published a couple books. She's working right now on more in that series. You're going to meet Jazz. You're going to learn about her background and how her work has led to these amazing books that she is writing and sharing with the world. So those are things that you're going to want to be looking forward to. We'll be posting about those in the next few weeks. Once again, we may be focusing a little bit more in the live broadcasts on the Facebook side, but we will still make sure that all episodes are available on YouTube. And if there are topics that you want us to be focusing on in the near future, if there are some ideas that you have, maybe you want to come on and join me as a co-host, I'm open to that. We can have that conversation too. But if you've got some topics you'd like to see us discuss, if you have guest ideas, people who you would like to see us invite to join us on the show, would you please let me know about that? cbwsteve@comcast.net is our email address. You can reach me there. If we are connected on Facebook, you can also drop me a private message on Facebook and we can continue to discuss it there. But I would love to hear from you. So many of our guests, so many of our topics over the last 5+ years, that's how long we've been doing this now, have come from you, those people who are joining us around the virtual coffee table to help us come up with ideas, because this is your conversation and this is your opportunity to participate in what we're doing. Finally, just a reminder that we do have that YouTube channel, and we would love to expand that. That's going to help us get more of our topics, more of our guests in front of a much broader audience. And would love to have you both subscribe to the channel, look at our videos there, like them, hit the thumbs up button, hit the bell buttons to subscribe, bell button to subscribe. And if you are already a subscriber to our YouTube channel, would you please do me and do yourself and do our guests a favor and share that channel with others. You can copy the link when you're there, and you can reach out on social media or through email to people you know. You know what our topics are. If you're tuning in regularly, you know what we talk about, you know how we talk about it. So you probably have some idea about other people in your circle who may enjoy being a part of the conversation. Please share that with them. I'm not looking to promote me. I want to make sure that our guests, our topics, and these amazing conversations get out to a much broader audience. And I think you can help do that. I hope you will. All right, that's enough of my pitch. I do want to thank you all for being here. You are amazing. I know we had a smaller live group today. That's cool. It's always intimate. Whoever's around the table, when we're talking live, that's great. If you are tuning in later on to watch this, please do put your own comments and questions in the chat. So that we can see them, so that Anne can see them when she has a chance to come on here and answer your questions and put her own comments in. I want to thank Ann Davis East for joining us once again. I want to thank all of you for being here, and just remind you that with everything we've got going on in this world, you do have a voice. You do have an opportunity to advocate for the things that you are passionate about. You can volunteer your time. You can donate. You can do so many different things to touch the world around you. And so please do find a way to make a difference in your world this week. God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.